start this meeting going. It's already past 8. So everyone, welcome to this month's session on the Meta Coach practice. It started off as the Meta Coach group practice session. We have it every month. It's just that since the lockdown, it made it very difficult for us to practice virtually. So what we did is that we continued on the meetings with topics that we brought into the discussion. Now, for the last 3 years, we've covered topics. We've covered the whole of the Coaching Genius program. And what I decided just a couple of months ago, a few months ago, about so this is the 4th month. So uh, taking topics from Michael Hall's book called Coaching Conversations. So just going through chapter by chapter, and how I got to be doing that was somehow I started rereading the book, and I said, "Oh, this is very nice." Lots of things that now appears new to me, and remembering what Robert Kiyosaki said, if you want to learn anything fast, you got to teach it. So I said, okay, I'll bring it into the Meta Coach sessions. And so here we are in the 4th month here already. And I would like to welcome Martha, who's just joined us. Martha, welcome. We've just started our session this evening. So let me just admit 2 more people, Dr. Anwar and Geeta. So everybody, it is a pleasure for me to be with all of you this evening. And every time I have such a session, my highest intention is that you gain something that is of value for yourself throughout this session, because our time is so precious. Every little drop of time that we have, I would like that it is beneficial to us all. So again, welcome to all of you, Franska, Anthony, Daniel, Tingwi, Amy, Zulaika, Rita, Dr. Anwar, and Geeta. Nice to see you. Guat Ching, Martha, and how do I pronounce that? Is it Chuck Siuko? Is that how I pronounce your name? Can I call you Siuko?
Check Siu.
Chuck Siu. Okay, Chuck Siu. Thank you for
Not,
being here.
not Char Siu, okay?
Okay. I'll make sure I don't pronounce it that way. Thank you. And also Carol. It's a pleasure to be seeing all of you. And yes, what I'll do is, because guests are continue to join, uh, let me see. Yeah, Franska, if you don't mind, I'll make you co-host. Would that be okay, Franska?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that when people join in as we are going through the session, you can help me to bring them in. Would that be
Okay.
okay, Franska? Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Now, the topic that we are covering for this evening, okay, before I go into the topic, just for the benefit of those of you who are here for the first time, that I run these sessions on coaching skills every month. At the beginning of the month, I run a session on neurosemantics. On the 3rd week of the month, I run this session on coaching skills, focusing on the skills that we use in order to coach. And I open up the sessions not only for coaches, because to a large extent, uh, people who are not professional coaches need the coaching skill. Currently, I'm doing a series of talks on coaching conversations also. However, the people there are mainly parents. So they are learning coaching skills in order to parent their children. So coaching skill is a skill, uh, I consider it as a non-negotiable skill in this day and age, because uh, if at any point your intention is to achieve your goal and and help the other person become better human beings, then the skill of coaching is non-negotiable. If you just want to achieve your goals and you don't care about the other person, well, you don't need coaching. You can just learn other skills of influencing people. You can do that. However, if you do care about actualizing the best in the other person as you are going for goals that are mutually beneficial, then the skills of coaching comes in. So the topic we are discussing this evening is the questioning models for coaching power. Now, I'd like to start off with a few frames. First is that if questioning is as powerful as we have suggested, are there models for the questioning art? Are there models that we can use to empower us in our coaching? How do we tease apart that structure from content? Because what happens is that when we confuse between structure and the content, we may get lost in the content. So how do we tease that apart? Now, models are important because models make it possible to replicate the behaviors and magical strategies of a talented expert. So what we are looking at this evening are a few models that are used in meta coaching. I believe we've got 5 models that we'll be discussing this evening. So let's take the models one by one. The first model is the precision questions of the meta model. So those of you who are familiar with NLP and neurosemantics, you will be have been introduced to the meta model of language. So this is the first model. When we speak, we articulate linguistic map about some facet of reality. So we have that map in our mind, and when we speak, we use words to articulate that map. The words accurately or inaccurately map things out. Have you ever uh, wondered, thinking about uh, what uh, what word to use? You have the thoughts in your mind, and you struggle to take out the symbol. Words are symbol to show what's there up there, and frequently we use wrong words to articulate what's inside our map. There is magic in words. Words stand for something. A word that may have several synonyms may mean different things to different people. So I had this experience coaching a person, and he was referring to his father as dad. So as I was speaking to him, I slip of my tongue. Instead of saying dad, I used the word father, and I could see that confusion in his face because to him, his father is dad. Dad is that one special person in his life. Father, daddy, whatsoever are generic words. But dad is that one special person. So we want to be careful about when people use words, we want to understand what does that word mean. So for example, if you were to imagine, say, a dog or a cat, regardless, if you like a dog, then I'd like you to imagine a dog right now. If you like a cat, just imagine a cat right now. And as you imagine that, I want you to notice the movie in your mind. I want you to notice the pictures that you see, the sounds that you hear, the sensation of touch, the kinesthetics. Okay? So as you imagine that, just to come back into this meeting again. Now, there are only a certain amount of words that you can use to describe it. Yeah, so if you were to ask me how I would describe that, uh, yep, I had a cat in my mind. It has a head and four legs and a tail, and it's mainly grayish white with some dark gray spots. Now, even with that description, you'll have a hard time of really seeing what I'm seeing in my head. Yeah. So this is where the meta model of the precision questions of the meta model comes in, the meta model of language. Since we take words and track from the referent event, something happens, we use words and track those events in our head. So we represent them on the theater of our mind, and we make sense of the words and symbols. Now, when our words are vague or fuzzy, you know, things like it's got a head and four legs and a tail, it can be almost anything. Okay. And when I say that, you had to invent in your head how that cat looks like. And in all probability, since you've not seen the cat that I saw in my head, your invention of how my cat looks like may totally be different from what I visualized. So the precision question of the meta model is that when we hear somebody uh, describing the images that they have in their mind, we ask everything about what we cannot literally track from the words to our mental screen of the mind. So when I said a cat, so you want to ask, okay, what color, what's it doing, uh, uh, what is the size, how big it is. So what we are doing is that from the evaluative based language here, the description that the person has, the the evaluation is basically a category: a cat, four legs, one head, and one tail. Very broad description. It can describe any kind of a four-legged animal. Asking specific questions so that now I can paint a picture in my mind of how your cat or how your dog looks like. Otherwise, just from that description of head, four legs, and a tail, you need to invent your own picture. So the meta model of language is that whenever I come to the point where I need to invent in my head how that looks like, that is a cause for me to ask questions. So the precision question of the meta model is that whenever I cannot track what you have said in the movie of my mind, I will ask question so that I can draw that picture in my mind. So the coaching model for coaching fuzzy, ill-formed thinking feeling into concrete, clear, focused, and well-formed strategies. So that's basically what we are using in the precision questioning of the meta model. And there are altogether 22 linguistic uh, distinctions. So what we are not doing this evening is to go through all of the 22 linguistic distinctions. Otherwise, we'll be here until uh, until tomorrow. But just to give you an uh, idea for those of you who are not uh, familiar with that. So these are uh, the category distinctions of the meta model of language. So we have at the very bottom here, I'm deliberately putting it this way. There is the descriptive based language. One head, four legs, a tail. It's grayish white with dark black spots. With broken whiskers, and so that is the descriptive based language. And on top of that, that's the language that the person has in their mind. So the the distinction questions that we are asking is about getting to the specifics. Yeah. So at one level here are the deletions. A person, when they speak, there are deletions in their language because we tend to summarize things to so-called to make it simpler in terms of our speech. So to question those deletions. Then the next category are the generalizations. Now above the deletions, those are all evaluative based language. The generalizations that people use, the distortions that's happening in their mind, and the meta level structure. So we have specific category, specific questions in order to gain more information from each of those categories. Okay, so I'll pause there and just uh, pause there for any questions or comments from everyone. So that's the first, the first model. We call it the meta model of language. That's the first questioning model. So anyone would like to make a comment or ask questions, go ahead, just unmute yourself and ask or say something.
Yeah, I think, Mazuki, the meta model is probably the most powerful model we have in NLP. It helps us kind of ground whatever in the head, in the see, hear, feel terms. Otherwise, we have to hallucinate what people are thinking. And sometimes we don't even know that we are hallucinating. So it's very important to, find out, can we see, hear, feel the representation that they have created in their minds? I think that's the power of the meta model, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. When I first learned it, I thought, oh, too many categories, too many distinctions. So I thought I'll just gloss over it. However, over the years, I begin to have that sense of how important it is in order to understand somebody. Without this meta model, it's very difficult for me to understand people. I have to, the word that you use, Anthony, to hallucinate what they are meaning.
What people mean, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So anyone else? You've got a comment before we go to the next point? You're good? Ready to go to the next point? So let's go to the next point, which is the next model is the meta questions of the matrix. This is another very interesting model. All the levels of our mind are made of some stuff that governs the primary level. Yeah. So that's what's happening. Something is happening out there. Now, we create all the stuff in our mind to represent what's out there. So what's in here are our thoughts, our feelings, and it habituates into our physiology. We feel that in our physiology. So the meta frames arises as we construct layers of meanings about how we think and feel about things. So something happens out there, I begin to think, feel about that. And then I begin to think, feel about how I think, feel about that. And I begin to think, feel about how I think, feel about how I think, feel about that. So I'll not go to the next one, but that's how our mind works. It goes one layer after another, and it goes not in a linear fashion. It goes in a non-linear, systemic fashion. We invented all kinds of terms and concepts to describe our layers of thoughts and feelings about things. We call them beliefs, values, decisions, models, expectations, identifications, understandings. Now, these terms are frames. They are our mental context for our thinking, feeling, and that every one of these terms refer to the same thing. We are referring to the same thing. However, at every level, we begin to create additional layer of belief, of values, of decisions, additional frames towards them. So each layer of thinking and feeling about an idea is simply our way of framing and categorizing that experience. So meta questions invite our clients to step back from their internal and external experiences and explore these meanings. So stepping back, so they are able to now see these meanings, notice these meanings. Because prior to that, because they are in those meanings, they are just experiencing. So with meta questions, we allow them to have that step back in their mind and to check the effectiveness of those meanings in achieving desired experiences and outcomes. Because we can create meanings that can create problems to ourselves about something that happens out there. Just, just simple thing like, I wonder if it rained in your area today. It rained quite heavily over here. I got my pants wet just walking from the 5 foot way to my car. My car was parked very close by. Walking less than 10 feet, I got my pants all wet, even though I had an umbrella at that time. It was that heavy. Now, people can create meanings about rain that can be resourceful or unresourceful. Some people will just go into, oh my goodness, rain again. I'm going to be late going home. So how resourceful is that meaning? For me, when it rains, I say, time for me to drive in puddles. I look for puddles along the way so that I can splash. Just make sure there are no people walking around. I've I've came several times when I notice the puddles on the other side. I'll go and make a U-turn just to just to drive around the puddles. Now, the thing is that as we create those meanings, we may not notice meanings that are not resourceful to our goals. So the meta questions allow people to step back and notice those meanings. And then because of that, they'll be able to quality control those meanings. So what I'll do is just briefly show to you the meta questions. There are altogether 15 types of meta questions. So let me just very briefly share that this next screen with you on the meta questions. Right. So here we are. We have meta questions, questions about meaning. That's the first one. The second one is uh, first, second, sorry, that's not even the sequence for asking, but first because I have got number one. That's all. So we have question about meaning, question about beliefs, question about frame, question about permission, question about prohibition, questions about feeling, question about thought, question about appreciation, question about value, question about decision, question about intention, question about outcome, question about expectation, question about rules or demand, questions about definition or class, about one particular subject. So this is how rich our mind is when we are thinking about something. So when we ask meta questions, it allows the coach and the client both to be able to appreciate how resourceful or unresourceful those meanings are to them. So this is the second uh, second model, questioning model that we use in order to better understanding our client. So I'll just pause there and invite any questions or comments that you may have with respect to the meta questions. Go ahead.
Mazuki, how do we help get the distinction between meta model and meta question?
Okay, so meta questions. I'll go to meta model first. The meta model is about getting people to bring their uh, their thoughts into specific language, sensory-based language, so that I can track it in my mind. Meta questions is about understanding the beliefs that they have. So it's all inside here. It's not about what's outside. So that's how I view that distinction. So it's all about exploring the belief, the structures. With the meta model, when they describe it out here, it is something that I can track in the theater of my mind. The moment the person goes into their beliefs, those are all concepts. Now I need to understand how are they building the concepts and how are those concepts creating usefulness in their lives. That's the way that I view it. Anything that you like to add, Anthony?
Yeah, sometimes you see that when they say something about the meta model, we want to ground it and see, hear, feel terms, right?
Yes.
And once we grounded it, then we can take from there and get insight what's the meaning behind that action, right?
Yes.
So that's like outside in. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when they say things of meta questions, is to take from what's in their head,
mm-hmm.
the beliefs, frames, and all of that, and how to get them to become aware of what they are thinking and saying, and even they may say it, but they don't even are aware of it.
Yeah.
And then when we ask them other questions, we raise their awareness about what they said or what they're thinking. And then we can take them out into the see, hear, feel terms and ground it in terms of their beliefs and values and all of that. Mm-hmm. So that becomes inside out.
Okay, thank you, Anthony, for that additional distinction.
Yeah, it's raising awareness. Huh?
It's about awareness. If I, as a coach, don't ask you those questions, I'll not understand you. And the beautiful thing about it is that because all of those thoughts have been running in your head, you become unconscious of them. So when a coach asks you the question, it is just like having a mirror and being able to see what's inside of you. Okay.
I remember we were in Colorado for meta coaching certification in 2011. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you find in our coaching system is that we are drilled in the questions. So they become part of you by the time you leave the coaching certification. Yeah, meta model and especially meta questions. Yeah. And, you gave us the 15, the short form version.
Yes.
But I remember during the meta coaching certification, right, every morning before I went to class, I would sit down and go through the 26 categories of meta questions and a total of about 100 questions. And I laughed through every question three times in the morning before I went for class. So, yes, Madhuki?
That's a model student.
Every morning I'll go through that categories of 26 questions, 26 categories of 100 questions, right? I'll ask every single question to myself 3 times, and then I'll go to class. And guys, when you do that regularly, right, when somebody speaks, it automatically comes out. You don't have to think about what question to ask. I think we as practitioners, sometimes we get caught by, we are thinking in our head what questions to ask, and then we are not listening.
Yeah. And this is also something that I frequently ask people to step back from the techniques. Step back from techniques. Yes, we are using the meta model of language for specificity. We are using the meta questions to understand the model of the world. At the same time, for what? So that's why I ask people to frequently step back for understanding. The reason why we are asking all of those questions is not for some intellectual exercise. We are asking all of these questions. We've covered 2 models here this evening. The reason why you're asking those questions is so that we can understand the other person better. And as we as a coach play the role of the mirror, the role of the coach is to mirror the client, that allows the client to see themselves better, because a lot of the things have been invisible to them. They are operating out of unconscious awareness about themselves. So by being the mirror, now they are able to see themselves. So this is something that, as a coach, to be able to, the word that we use is meta detailing. Go to the intention of asking the question to understand, and going to the very specifics of what questions to ask, and keep moving in those directions. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So the questions that we ask is not for the purpose of um, making ourselves look clever or whatsoever. No. It's about understanding the client, to help the client embrace the fullness of who they are, so that they can move forward. Okay. Right. So let's go to the next point. The model, it is called questions of appreciative inquiry. Now, for questions of appreciative inquiry, we are operating from two states. One is the state of appreciation. The other is the state of inquiry, wanting to know. We are appreciating and wanting to know. These are the two states um, that we want to be in asking these questions. Now, the questions of appreciative inquiry is about the cooperative search, to search the best in people, in organizations, and the world. So our intention is to find what is best, what is working, what is working well, what is turning out right. So the intention is to find, uh, I I use the term sometimes, catch people doing things right. So we are asking questions to find what's working right in the world, so that they can anchor that and continue doing that. So questions, example of questions of appreciative inquiry are, what are some of the high point experiences you've had in this organization? So it is leading to an extent. However, we are leading them to greater resourcefulness, getting their mind to be looking for things that had worked for them. Another question, an example of question is, what was it like when you are most alive and engaged in what you do? So that's another example. Another example here is, without being modest, what do you most value about yourself, your work, your company? Another one, what are the core factors that give life to this business, without which the business would not be the same? And probably I'll throw in a last question here, is that, what are some magic moments you've experienced in life? So it is about bringing the person to go inside of themselves, to find things that they can appreciate about themselves. So this is another model that we use in coaching. Okay. So anyone has got any comments or questions? Dr. Anwar, you've got something?
This is not traditional NLP or in normal NLP, is it?
Sorry?
It's not an NLP model per se, right?
Well, the thing about the meta coaching is that meta coaching is modeling of highly successful. It came from the modeling of highly successful coaches. So it may or may not come directly from NLP. However, it is a model that is being used by many coaches. So this is one of them.
Yeah, I saw in the list the appreciative inquiry, but now I think the practice has gone into basically a strength-based approach, right? As you said, the highlights, huh? Yeah.
Yes, Rita.
No, just on appreciative inquiry, it's been around a while and it's been used a lot in in development, in humanitarian assistance aid and psychosocial support, and working in very much field-based. So a lot of that tradition, it's evolved also in different ways, and increasingly being used where you're bringing together solution-based around social innovation, social solutions. The methodology is being used, and I mean, funny enough, I've started to use it myself. I mean, I have been using it. I've reminded myself that I have used it in the past, and I find myself using it when I'm mentoring, my youngster or youngsters that I work with. But it has, but it's coming more to the fore. It's sort of being used in different areas,
Yeah.
and I think it is, it's homing down on not just the what, but it's going back to the why as well, and a way of digging deep. But so how it crosses over with NLP, I don't know, but it is a technique that's sort of, I think, being galvanized again, where it's been sort of used quietly in different areas. So that's been my experience of it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
just
you.
thought I'd share that.
So in fact, when you mentioned that it's been used a lot, now my background about coaching is through meta coaching. So for me, I discovered this through reading books from meta coaching. So it's wonderful that you are mentioning that it's being used a lot in many different situations. It's just that what we do in meta coaching is that it need not necessarily come directly from NLP. What we have done is we have modeled highly successful coaches. One of the highly successful coach that Michael Hall and Michelle Duval model was Tim Galway. He's a sports coach. So modeling from those people. So this is one of the models that these coaches use. So thank you, Rita, for giving that perspective that is being used by a lot of disciplines out there. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so let's move to the next questioning model. So this is a third model. This model is called the questions of the frame games model. So the frame games model basically comes directly from neurosemantics. Now, when we talk about frame, we are referring to how we mentally frame our thoughts. So it's what we have over here. Yeah? Then when we talk about game, it's how we express ourselves outwardly, how we talk, how we act, how we relate to things, how we behave, how we feel. So that's the game. So frame are how we mentally frame our thoughts, game how we express ourselves. So in the frame games model, first is we want to, not to say first, when we notice games, there are unresourceful games or even toxic games, games that people play that holds them, that leashes them, that prevents them from being the best. And there are games that bring people to their greatness. So when we talk about the frame games model, there is one, uh, I would say, body of conversation about diagnosing a toxic game. So if we are noticing that people are playing a game, they are eating at them, they are breaking down relationships with themselves or with others. So part of what we will be asking in diagnosing a toxic game is to identify the game identification, to uh, to find the cues and the clues of the game, to ask questions about the players of the game, to explore into the hooks, the triggers, and the baits that recruit one into the game, to identify the emotional intensity of a certain game, to find the rules of the game, to find what is controlling the quality control of the game, the agenda of the game, the name of the game, the style of the game, and the leverage points in the game. So in order to overcome a toxic game, we need to diagnose it by identifying the elements as what I have just mentioned just now. So those are referring to diagnosing a toxic game. Once a person realizes that they are playing in a toxic game and they want to be to move forward from there, to develop, to grow, then to design, engineer a new frame game, to create a new mental frame so that now they can play the game to express themselves in ways that are empowering for them. So to be asking questions about what's the preferred game that they want to play, what's the target of the new game, the agendas and motivation of the new game, the new game's larger system, the objective and outcome of the new game, the description of the new game, the leverage points, the process for installing new game, and the patterns for installing the new game. So this is how when we are noticing people are, if they are stuck in a toxic game, to be able to identify. So because if it is not detailed out, they will find difficulty in getting out of that. So to be able to diagnose it fully and completely, and then to design engineer a new frame game. So that's another model, the questions of the frame games model. Okay. So any questions or comments coming from you?
This is Martha. Sorry, I can't have my camera on, unfortunately. The games model, is it related to transactional analysis?
Again,
I remember Eric Byrne talking about.
Sorry, Martha, the audio.
Oh, is the audio not very
cut
good?
off. Yeah, go ahead again.
Okay, I was wondering whether the games model is related to transactional analysis. Eric Byrne wrote a book called Games People Play, and where he identifies games that people play in the different levels of them, like grade 1, 2, you know, in terms of the toxicity, etc. Is it related to DA?
I'm not familiar with the terminology that you use. However, based upon what you describe, I would say yes. We play lots and lots of games in our life, playing the victim game, playing the bully game, playing the social influencer game. Many games that we play, and most dangerous of all are the Game of Thrones that people play.
Yeah, Eric Byrne talks about games in terms of the yes but game. You know, so for example, somebody making suggestions and somebody else keeps saying yes but and sabotaging. And then whoever says yes but walks away in their belief, justified in their belief that the situation can't be changed, and they transfer their frustration onto the rescuer in that game. So that's it's quite interesting to see the two models and how they could interrelate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and where's Guaching? Yeah, Guaching mentioned, requested a topic on bullying. So that is also games that people play. Yeah, so the person being bullied plays the game of the victim. The person who's bullying plays another game. So so that's why, for example, people stuck in in abusive relationships, understanding that they are being mentally or emotionally abused or even physically abused, people just cannot get out of that because they are running those games inside their mind. So they need to change the internal game, the frames, to change the frames before they can actually move out from those sort of relationships. So this is where the frame games model comes in. Okay, so thank you, Martha, for that. Anybody else would like to comment?
Because Martha said transactional analysis, I guess in a way, we just use a different terminology. The games that we play are games based, and we said the inner and outer games, right? So the outer game is what we say and what we do, which is the transactions that we make. And the inner game is what we think and feel, and the frames and beliefs and all the meta question related frames that we set up, right? So in a sense, they seem to be coming from different sides, but using similar approaches. Yeah. Which is driven by the meta states model quite a lot.
Thank you, Anthony, for that. Anyone else would like to offer a suggestion, comment, or question?
Yeah, just add on to transactional analysis. I learned a little bit about that. Basically, it's about the interaction between people, and they playing the roles of a parent, adult, or a children. So from that abusive example, could be the abusing person playing a parent with authority. However, the one that was a victim could be a child without a lot of control, without a lot of autonomous control. So it's through a game with the three roles: parent, adult, and child. So probably it's a little bit different from the frame games that Michael has versus the transactional analysis. That's what I understand.
Okay. Thank you, Ting Wei, for that added perspective. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's move to the last. I think this. Yes, this is the last model. This is the questions for a well-formed outcome. So those of you of us who are coming from NLP background, we are familiar with this one, the questions for a well-formed outcome. The primary role of an effective coach is to facilitate individuals moving from where they currently are to achieving the desired outcome. So questions that as a coach we are asking ourselves is that, how do we know when our clients have achieved their outcomes? How do we know that this outcome is something that the client really wants for him or herself? How do we know what our client really wants from the coaching itself? How do we know when to stop coaching? So the well-formed outcome questions, there are altogether 10 categories. First is the question of where are you now, to define the present state, and where do you want to be? So that's the desired state. So to identify where you are and where you want to be. So two elements of the score model being described there. Then asking the question, when you achieve your outcome, what will you see, hear, feel when you have it? So that's grounding into the experience when they achieve their outcome. Then the question of where, when, how, with whom will you get this outcome? So defining the what's around them, what's in their environment. The next question are, what are the steps involved in reaching this goal? So this is where from the experience of especially in Malay mythology, we have Mak Jenin, uh, the eternal dreamer. So the difference between goal setting and just purely fantasizing is now you come into the steps involved. So that you can bring yourself from where you are now to where you want to be. Now, the next is the outcome something that you can initiate yourself and maintain? So no use in creating an outcome that you have no control over. So bring back into your sphere of influence. There are so many things out there in your circle, in your circle of concern, but bring it into your circle of influence. So is this something that you can initiate and maintain by yourself? and asking the question, what are the resources will you need in order to get this outcome? So that you know this is the question of power, to be able to use your abilities, to be able to use your intelligence in order to close that gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And the next question is, how will you know that your outcome has been realized? This is evidence procedure. Sometimes people set an outcome, they are not clear about when they have achieved the outcome, to the extent that they keep on working and working and working, not realizing that they have achieved that. For example, in my case, coming from an engineering background, in engineering, especially when it comes to engineering projects, we have this CF, yeah, uh, uh, a certificate of fitness. So once we get the certificate of fitness, we know that we have achieved the outcome for that particular project. So how will you know that your outcome has been realized? And the next question is the outcome compelling? Uh, and this one is really relevant. And that, and as we are moving into this new year, we have this phenomenon happening, that people create outcomes that are not compelling to them because that's the cliche outcome of their friends. So they hear, uh, what's your New Year's resolution? I want to lose weight. What's your New Year's resolution? I want to lose weight. So 10 of their friends say, I want to lose weight. And somebody asks them, what's your New Year resolution? I want to lose weight. Even though it is not compelling to them. So no use setting an outcome that is not compelling to you. Okay. Then the next question, this is critical and important as well. Is the desired outcome ecological? Ecological meaning to say, whatever that you want for yourself, does it bring benefit to you and to the people around you? If the outcome that you go for, when you achieve it, it brings harm to yourself in one particular area, or to the people close to you, it brings harm to them, then that is not ecological. Yeah. And finally, the final part of the well-formed outcome is that then, as you clarify all of those in detail, then you begin to imagine yourself a time and place, how that future is going to be, so that you can go into that outcome and experience it in your body, then to be able to know how it feels when you achieve that outcome, and to come back into the here and now, so that now you'll be ready to move towards that outcome. So this is the, I think, the fifth model that we use for coaching. So with that, anybody has got any questions or comments, that additions that you like to make? So you're good with that? Okay. So I hope that many of you are familiar with that last model, because they straight from textbook from NLP basically. So with that, we've covered 5 models that we use in coaching. One is the precision questions of the meta model. Next is the meta questions of the matrix. And the next model is the questions of appreciative inquiry. Then we have the questions of the frame games model. And the fifth one is the questions for a well-formed outcome. So that wraps up the 5 models that we use in coaching, the questioning models for greater coaching power. So probably in summary, if I want just to mention over here, that if questions drive coaching, then high quality questions drive high quality coaching. So that's why as a coach, we want to know these models inside out, because it is the quality of our questions that enable us to coach. so that we get to the heart of the matters and invite the listener into a new reality. So our questioning is not just for the sake of questioning, it is about getting to the heart of the matter that's preventing the client from achieving their goals and outcomes. So there are numerous models for questioning. It's just that in this particular session, we introduced several of them. We introduced 5 of them from the precision questions of the meta model that allow us to index specific details to the meta questions that enables us to open up the matrix of frames of embedded beliefs questions that best lead the internal journey. So meta model out there, the meta questions what inside here. So these are the 5 models that we've covered this evening, and I hope that those have been useful to you. So with that, I would like to invite you, if you have any additional questions or comments with regard to the whole of this session that we have had this evening. Go ahead.
I wonder how many in the room are looking at getting meta coaching certification. Are there candidates here? Think we, huh? Yeah. The meta coach system is very, very, the more I operate in the market, the more it's convincing me that it's probably one of the most best structured system for coaching out there. There's also other very good coaching models out there. But if you can just, understand how the meta coaching system works, it's an amazing system that operates with the client. And Marzuki, you covered all the 5 areas of the models of questioning. And what you'll find is that when you're in a coaching situation, the key thing you'll use at the start is in neurosemantics or in International Society of Neurosemantics. When you go to meta coaching certification, the first thing you learn is this: you never start coaching until you know what the client wants. Yeah. So the well-formed outcome questions is really the starting point of the coaching session. And the well-formed outcome questions also incorporates the meta-moral questions and meta questions anyway. Yeah. So what we're saying in meta coaching is that the well-formed outcome question is key, is critical. And when, now in my NLP practitioner, I'm going to get them to even memorize the 18 questions in the meta model. Yeah. I mean, in the well-formed outcome. Because, when you go to meta coaching, you get drilled on that quite a lot. And one of the things you learn is that if you don't get an outcome clear for the client and you start coaching, that is what we call prescription without diagnosis. Yeah. And prescription without diagnosis is malpractice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's critical that, you learn the meta model sharply and get very good at it. You learn the well-formed outcomes. And good idea, Marzuki, this is the end of the year coming to next year, right? Use the well-formed outcome question to set your goals for next year. Yeah. And make sure you keep it right in front of you, because most times all goals set in New Year's resolutions are evaporated in 2 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, it incorporates the meta model, it incorporates the meta questions. Yeah. And once you can pin down what you really want, then you can go and look for a coach. Yeah, that's really wanted to share with them. Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. Yeah. I was just laughing when you mentioned that you want people coming into your class to memorize the
WFO.
The WFO. Be careful when you say that, because what happened with Michael was when he was conducting ACMC in China. I can't remember what category of things that he was talking about, but there were about 40 categories of things, and he let slip that because somebody asked him, "Do we need to memorize this?" And
he said yes.
He let slip that, "Oh yes, you need to memorize it by tomorrow." So, and the next morning, Mandy Chai came to him, Michael, why did you say that last night? They didn't sleep last night, trying to memorize.
40 questions, or what?
40 categories. I can't remember what they were. So don't say memorize to people who come from Chinese school background. They'll take that literally. Right, Franska?
I can only think of I can only think of the 26 categories of the meta questions and the 14 categories of cognitive distortions. That makes up 40.
So yeah, before we end, I'd just like to go around to everybody just to hear your feedback. What is it that you've learned from this session, or maybe you just want to mention something, just a comment that you like to say. So Anthony, you've
I've said enough.
now. Thank you. Franska, how about you? Is there something that you like to say before we end?
No, but I quite enjoyed the session today, and I remember the 5 model. Thanks.
Thank you, Franska.
Thank you.
And Ting Wei, how about you?
Yeah, I think learn a few model. I think the next challenge is that when are we using this model? When are we using that model? I think there's a structure so that we won't fly around. So there's a structure in meta coaching that this come and then later this and that. So I mean, interested, just waiting for ACMC to come in Malaysia.
Thank you. Ting Wei's putting pressure on me already. And next, Geeta.
Yes, hi, Mazuki. Thank you so much for sharing such wonderful knowledge. I really enjoyed the session, and especially, I think it relates a lot to many of us where, when something happens, you start thinking and then you feel, and then it's a very, like what you say, it's a very systemic fashion. Yeah, it just becomes a belief system in the end. So, and how do we learn how to handle this? What are the kind of questions that we need to ask to dissect that belief and change that frame of mind? Very interesting, actually. So, using the frame game, how do you work that out and reframe their mind? I think that's going to be very interesting.
Thank you, Geeta. I'm glad for you saying that. And Dr. Anwar, anything from you?
Okay, Mazuki. Right. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful session. I just want to add that sometimes when you go to, read books and so on, you will come across questions which are actually disguised in different names, but you know that actually it's the foundation is still that five categories that came out. I just finished reading this. I don't know how you can see this. Fierce Leadership. I don't know how it appears on your screen. It's called Susan Scott. And she has a set of questions which mirrors really what we talked about tonight. Right? So yeah, names could be different, but at the end of the day, the essence is still the same.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anwar. And Zulaika, may I have some comments from you before we end?
Thank you for the session. This is a new thing for me. I cannot wait to try and test it out with my colleagues and maybe my peers, just to test out whether am I suited in this area or not. So hopefully it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Zulaika. That's the best way to learn. Just try it out. And Rita?
Hi. Yeah, I found it really interesting, some of the concepts, because it also overlaps with, I think, like Dr. Anwar was saying, is things I've read, things I've probably practiced 30 years ago in a different context. And it's also interesting to hear about new methods or models that do overlap or have come to new areas that have evolved. I mean, I think it's an evolving area. And also, how it can be best used with, not just with whether you're working with clients or individuals or out there in the community, but also, you know, how we practice it on ourselves. So it was useful to hear about some other ways of thinking around some of these quite complex concepts, home it in on, you know, on also navigating, because it's also being able to go with how the conversation, and then not managing, but also looking at thinking through, well, okay, what bit works in terms of our questioning. And I think that's something that I find I have to sometimes stop and think and decide, okay, which avenue to go down, you know, what models being used, or different things I've read, or different things I've practiced. So there's lots of interesting overlaps as well, thinking as well. So it was insightful. Thanks.
Thank you, Rita. And Guat Ching, I can read your comments there. Would you like to say them out?
Okay, you ask the right question to command the right action. If you give the wrong command to your mind, so you are amplify the unresourceful belief, you get the wrong outcomes. For example, you are telling yourself, I'm lazy. Then it is a unresourceful belief. In the end, what kind of, you will not get a positive outcomes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Guat Ching. Martha, you're next.
Yeah, I found it very interesting. Thank you. And it's something I definitely will look into. Sounds very interesting, the meta model. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha. And Chek Siu.
It's an interesting session, and thank you, Anthony, to invite me for this session. And it made me like, okay, I need to practice lah. Okay, yeah, because we need to practice what we learn. We cannot say, oh, after learn, just keep it there and never practice kind of things. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Chek Siu. And Carol, you need to unmute your mic. We can't hear you. We are not getting any audio from Carol. I'll move on to Padmini.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for this interesting interesting talk. I mean, I can see that you have a very structured perspective to this. We all thought that we are doing coaching, but we never looked at it in such a structured manner, to be very honest. Okay, so it was a different perspective for me to look at it this way, and thanks for the invite.
Thank you, Padmini. Thank you. And Zakia? If you can just unmute yourself first. We are not getting any audio from you, Zakia. That's all right. I'll just move to Kimi. Are you there, Kimi, to unmute yourself? Nor Zakimi. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. For me, this is a good refresher since I've been too long been abandoned this kind of body of knowledge. Perhaps I will join Anthony later in January to get a traction back with all this very interesting kind of body of knowledge. This is just another. Thank you very much for the invite to both of you. This is an eye opener again, since I have abandoned this for many years now. I'm very excited to get more knowledge with this group, inshallah.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kimi. So with that, I would like to thank all of you for being. Anthony, you want to say something?
Yeah, so interesting. I was just laughing away, Kimi, that you say I've abandoned this. This is a life skill. Don't abandon your life.
Exactly. I mean, it was my fault anyway. It just we need to have this kind of session more and more over. Then I will get the traction back. Thank you.
And you know, the idea of questioning is I think Mazuki, you said it right at the start, right? That, you know, we are seeking to understand the client, not for our purposes, but for the client's purposes. And every coaching relationship must be absolutely focused on the client. It's not the coach. And every question we ask is driven by the energy of the client. That's why sometimes in coaching we say you got to follow the energy of the client. And that takes practice. That takes practice to be able to, you know, feel the states of the client, the mind of the client, the frame of the client, where it's going. Yeah. And the models helps you to frame those questions based on what the client has said just at that point in time of that conversation, you see. So yeah, I think that's where the meta coaching system is so strong, because it shows you how, and Michael Hall does it so well. It shows you how to, you know, just get a sense of the energy of the client. All the question models that Mazuki has gone through is all about how to bring that. And don't worry about whether you're going to ask the right or wrong question. Yeah. I mean, the energy will be there to get it to the right place anyway. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely focus on the client and the client's energy rather than the coach.
Thank you, Anthony. And probably I just want to relate a story that I read this morning. It's about an Olympic athlete, downhill skier. He's been in the Winter Olympics a few times, I think 3 or 4 times, won some medals, top level athlete. And someone went to interview him to know what kind of thoughts that ran through his mind before he starts the race. So people were postulating that maybe he's last minute trying to run the course, be thinking about each turn that he's going to take. You know, like downhill skiing, you have the slalom and all those different types. So, but he said that, oh no, just before the race, I was just thinking about what if my sister is down there and I need to save her life. So that was what he was thinking. Basically, he just let go of all the techniques and skills that he has practiced and just be thinking about the outcome to save his sister down there. So that's how he got to be such a world-class athlete. So bringing it into our context, we have all of these questioning models. It is for us to practice until the models become, we bring the skill mind to muscle. Now it becomes our muscle memory, just like skier. It is in his muscle memory already. So that when he skis, he's thinking about saving his sister down there. So as a coach, when we go into coach our client, we are not thinking about the questioning models anymore. We are not thinking about techniques or strategies anymore. We are thinking about, do I understand my client? What does my client want? How can I be the best service to my client? Because when you get into that state, all of those skills will come in naturally if you have already been practicing that. So that's the intention, right? Okay, so with that, I would like to say thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate your being here. So what I'll do is that I have the meeting recorded. I'll upload it and then send the links for you if you want to refer to this. Now, before we end, just to give some announcements. For the duration of this month, every Friday evening, I've been having a session such as this, focusing on parenting. So there'll be another session tomorrow as well. So if you would like to join me in that session, then you're most welcome. So head over to Eventbrite. You can register from there. And our next neurosemantic session will be, oops, let me see my calendar. This is December. Our next neurosemantic session will be on the New Year's Day, 1st of January, you will be on Thursday. That will be on the 7th of January. So that's our neurosemantic session. Okay. So with that, I would like to say thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the year, and all the best to you. Have a happy new year then. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marzuki.
And bye-bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Marzuki.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And Stacy, I noticed that you have just joined us just at the point when we've concluded the meeting, Stacy. So, however, I've mentioned that I will be sending the recording of the session. So you are registered in the session. So I'll send the link to that recording as well. So let me just
See you, Ko. He's just left.
yeah, so let me just yeah, stop recording.